Mayor Peter Carlisle speaking right now.
Volunteers. They are going to do a visual inspection for damage or injury. The Pacific Tsunami Warning Center has downgraded the tsunami warning to a tsunami advisory. Based on the best available data from the Pacific Warning Center, it's now safe for evacuated residents to return home. Remember, they are going to be preceded by the first responders and by the volunteers. This announcement is declared to the coastal waters areas on Oahu only. Boaters at sea and harbor users should wait for official information from the United States Coast Guard, Hawaii State Department of Land and Natural Resources, and the Hawaii State Department of Transportation Harbors Division before returning to ports. Unusual currents could continue for a significantly longer period. Residents and visitors are advised to stay off of beaches until notified it is safe to do so by the city and county of Honolulu.
So going back into the water is something I know last time you were concerned. Of course, it was a different time of the day. Last time it was about 7 or 8 in the morning when the all clear was given. The all clear given in the middle of the night.
We're not using the term all clear. Okay.
Not yet, right?
We're not using the term all clear at all.
Why not?
What we are doing, that's simply what we agreed to after Governor Abercrombie gave his announcement. What we are telling people is, yes, you can return home, and we're doing those things that are required of us in terms of due diligence to make sure that there's no damage, there's no injury, there's nothing that would make it unsafe for them to return home. And that's being done right now.
But the real concern is the water, people not going in the water.
Exactly correct. Everybody should be very cautious about what's happening in the water, and we know that in some instances after the last great warning, there was danger that lasted for 2 full days in certain areas. We do not want somebody to go into the water and risk that type of danger until we have told them that there has been an assessment by the city and county of Honolulu, specifically, typically the people who are our lifeguards, the people who deal with water safety. Those are the people who we're going to be wanting to listen to and get their advice. And it may be that it's sequential. There may be areas that we believe are now safe and other areas that we do not believe are safe. I don't know any of that yet, but I am telling people that right now we do not feel it is safe for anybody to go into the water because of the currents that have been generated by this extremely forceful event.
But people
will it take?
Go home, right?
People can go home, and they are being preceded in terms of going home by people who are the first responders who have to make sure that it's safe for them to go home.
So
what's the criteria?
Waiting for your first responders to give?
No, they're at the point now where they can return home.
Okay.
What's the criteria for an all clear then?
There is no term all clear that's going to be used for this event, so that the criteria is it's non-existent. We're doing something else, and we're calling it something else.
Could you explain what went on in that teleconference? I mean, is that what you read to us, what the other mayors have agreed to as well?
Everybody is talking about their own responsibility. I'm only talking about my responsibility, which is the city and county of Honolulu. So what responsibilities that they feel that they have in other locations may be guided by different concerns because they had more forceful events at their locations. But we're telling people right now that we believe that it is appropriate for them to return home because we are doing those things that we need to do to make sure that it is safe for them to go home.
Are you concerned that tonight that one of the officials from the Pacific Tsunami Warning Center said that this warning may not have even been needed? Are you concerned about the fallout from that?
No, I'm not, because I think it was taken in the context of, hindsight. I think everybody realizes, and I think he's certainly the person who realizes it better than anybody else, that the events are unpredictable, and we had to, at the very beginning, take all of the steps that were necessary to make sure that we preserved life. We do not want to be unprepared for any sort of event like they had, certainly not as catastrophic as the one that they had from Japan, but anything that would have had a greater impact, perhaps throughout the entire tsunami evacuation zone. You have to be prepared for that.
Will the city have crews out?
Information on an accident that happened on Kaukonahua Road, supposedly.
I don't personally.
No, you don't. Okay.
I don't personally.
What about
you guys have crews out?
what about the lack of a warning time this time around compared to the last time? Remember from Japan,
true.
we had like 8 hours notice, and in this time we only had maybe a few hours.
A few hours, and the response was remarkably effective. I think we're going to be able to debrief after this and find out that there are other things that we could have done perhaps mildly better, but frankly, this was pulled off pretty much without a hitch. And you're always going to remember those scenes of the people who are dancing at the end of the pier and strolling out into the water. Those people, there are people like that for every type of event for this. They put themselves at risk. They put the first responders who want to try and protect them at risk, and yet they continue to do it. I think it's incredibly irresponsible behavior, but it's not something that is governed by a criminal statute, or is it something that we can stop people from doing under the current legal framework.
What about
Will the
those
city have
sirens
crews?
that didn't work? What about the sirens that didn't work this time?
I'm going to talk to her this
Okay.
time. Okay.
Thank you, Kyoki. Will the city have crews out along the shoreline to make sure people don't go into the water?
We're going to let people know that that's what they should not do. But once again, what can we do? We can stop them from entering the beach parks. But if they do not go into the beach parks and go have access to the water in some other location, you can't stop people from doing things that aren't safe for them, which we know is true for surfers and people like that as well. So the problem that we've got with people who are going to do that is ultimately, if they get hurt, if they lose their lives, then people are going to blame the city, even though we did everything we could to tell them not to do this type of behavior. So I'll reiterate it. Do not go into the water now. It's dangerous to do so.
Right, we got that. So what about the sirens that apparently might not have worked and they had to sort of refire them again some minutes later tonight? That makes a lot of difference in this short
It certainly
warning
does.
time.
And if there's problems with those things, we need to hear about it from each one, and then what we need to do is go out and rectify the situation. There's always going to be the difficulty with the maintenance of these machines or these warning signals and the different sounds that come out of them. And, you have problems with thieves, you have problems with the weather, you have problems with all of those types of things, and you can't go out and test them every day. But we do have a system in place, and in general it works very well. And by judging by tonight's very empty roads after a very short period of time, that's something I think we should all be proud of, because to emulate that in the future, we may even be able to do it better having gone through this event. We certainly did it better than we did in the Japanese one, because we had lots of time to do this, and this time we had to do it very quickly, and it was remarkably professionally and effectively done.
And this is all developing on the Saturday night before Halloween. It's 5 o'clock at night. People are at parties. It's a harder time when people aren't together at their homes or in the offices that they could immediately, respond.
You would think that we would have been severely challenged, and yet people rose up to the challenge and behaved remarkably well, remarkably effectively, and most importantly, professionally.
Mayor, as far as you know, still on Oahu along the shorelines, no injuries, no major damage?
Absolutely no reports of damage to property, no reports of damage to people on the shorelines, and frankly, as one of the police majors told me, if something like that had happened, they would have gotten it because they would have called 911 and said something happened. So I'm very, very hopeful that we will find that there is no damage and no injury whatsoever as a result of this. But we're not out of the woods yet in being certain about that, and the way that we can make sure that it continues to be that way is for people to keep the heck out of the ocean. Did I say that 20 times or 25 times?
I think so.
Yeah.
All right,
Thank you
but
so much, Mayor.
Everybody
Okay.
can go
Appreciate your
home.
time.
All right, thank you
Yes.
so
Okay.
much.
Thank you,
Mayor.
Mayor.
My
And
pleasure.
back to you folks in the studio.
Well, as you heard the mayor say that it is all clear for people to go back home for now, even though he's not using that term specifically. I'll send it back to you guys in the studio.